Link, please shift the
Good Sunday afternoon, everyone. We are sharing our AWOKH fashion photos today on our Instagram page. For those of y'all that follow us on Instagram, that doesn't press play because no one press plays and no one press like. But I know everyone on YouTube really shares their views on the page, and we really appreciate that. And press like on the videos also, because nowadays we know that no one press likes only because I don't know what. Anyway, so what do I want to talk about, right? I think everyone can probably hear me, or I might sit a little bit closer to the camera. But what I want to talk about quickly is our regulation business. In our regulation business with AWOKH Business this week and with our HR 2024 this year requires us to acknowledge our people and the state of the world currently. Requires us to acknowledge the people of the world that includes every country and every people. When we acknowledge everyone in the world, we acknowledge the circumstances that we have learned over the years are happening in certain countries. And when the world learns to abide to regulation business is exactly that the world functions from and that the world are economically being provided from. And regulation business requires the world to listen to the requirement to structure the processes of the world, to not structure Ribea, Elise, in my AWOKH business, because I'm exactly educating structure amongst humanity and in the different countries. And a lot of people take my information that I educate and they implement it and they pretend that no one has pressed play on my videos. And only therefore I make a really firm statement with the people who want to manage business and who really want to silence the information, not information holders, but where they get the information from. It's my work experience, like mentioned before. I've went through the trainings and exactly know what the requirement of humanities in this years and days. And while we learn that the world functions in a certain way, we have a responsibility to ourselves and a responsibility being human beings on this earth. And when we learn the requirement for every one of us to manage the offices and businesses in our countries in a way that are fair and fine for the country's people and for all of us, and there are in a way that are fair and fine for the international world also. Because remember, from our countries goes today international information, because every country today makes business with the other country, right? There's countries today that are because the world functions with business with one another. And when the world are structured in a certain way and we have a requirement to manage the world and own our businesses in a way that are fair and fine for everyone and for where humanity finds themselves at, we have a requirement as business owners to acknowledge one that we recognize in the process of business. And everyone in the process of business is every one of us, right? Every circumstances that we are introduced to. And another thing that we then mentioned during the week was our HR 2024. If you press play on the video, I educated about the SARS business office, right? And when we discuss that tomorrow, we want to discuss where the business functions from, where the world builds offers from, where the world functions from in business when they trade with one another, We have information systems that are computerized systems that the world works on, and that the world makes business with one another in a way that are fair and in a way that are non-oppressive to the countries, to certain countries that makes business under certain functions and processes. And one of those processes and programs that the world functions on are the SARS payroll function, right? The SARS payroll program is a program that I've educated on HR 2024. So I want to question people, because I'm not only educating people that are in business and in office when I do HR 2024 educations on my page. I want people that own businesses in fashion and that are working in the fashion industries and that are working in certain departments in the world, and they press us play on our videos to listen to what is our requirement with understanding the programs that businesses and that offices work with on Earth, right? And those programs sometimes are educated in certain ways. And I've worked in South Africa at Nubbly Birds, right? And it's now Interfoods. And I remember years ago when I worked at Nubbly Birds Biscuit Factory, how the program that the business functioned in was exactly the program that the government has found to receive the information in all accuracy of the state of the business itself and how the business affects the people in the community where the business are functioning at. And therefore, we worked on the SARS program those years. And I've trained us through the intro, right? I'm going to call it an intro program of our SARS VIP program. It's a payroll function, and it's not only a payroll function, but it's an office holder that holds information of the office itself. And it does not only hold information of the office itself, but it holds information of the businesses in the country itself. And that system is where the government functions with, and where the government retrieves information from, and where the governments in the countries are required to work from. It's the most accurate of systems that you can get in our years and days, and it's being updated on a regular basis, and the systems doesn't give problems. And the requirement for governments to understand when they work on the SARS program, what does the program mean to the government? How does the government manage the country in line with the program that they've been introduced to, right? What is the requirement for the country itself when the country makes business with other countries, right? I don't want to be too loud because people are at home, and I don't want to speak too loud now. And I know everyone can sometimes be loud next door, but now I don't want to be too loud. Anyway, so when the program functions in a way that the program sometimes hold information of the organization, it receives information, and it exactly structures the information by the information that it receives. The system SARS can exactly tell you how many people can one organization employ in 1 month or in 1 year, right? And when the system functions in a way that it can structure the company's organizational structure in line with the state of the country, right? In line with the poverty of the country, in line with the unemployment rates of the country, right? Then the countries itself need to listen to what are their requirements then offers with that specific program and with programs that other businesses are building offers with, so that the world can listen to what is the requirement of the world to get out of the state of poverty. Remember, the people of our families that traveled from Africa to South Africa didn't only travel there to go and have a good day or to go and give birth to their children. Kids. Our families traveled there because the world functions in a certain way. And when our families got to South Africa, they gave birth, and my mama gave birth to 7 children. And I was the baby of the 7 children. And I found myself, when the world moved with me on that same journey, in the offices where the world then educated the program that countries in Africa requires, and poverty countries, so that they can get out of the poverty circumstances. So in South Africa, they then work on the SARS program, and the SARS program then makes business owners making business with one another, and they then function under one business. That is a one house program where the country are providing households from. And therefore, the businesses, I have learned that South African businesses doesn't manage the program well. The South African government doesn't listen to what South Africa in a state of aggression only because of the poverty that is yet in the country still, while the country are functioning on first world country programs, right? And while the country are having to understand how do they structure their processes in a way that they get out of the poverty and they feed the world in a way that the world are required to be fed. Another thing I want to mention is that New Zealand functions also on such. And then New Zealand also make business with international countries. And then in New Zealand, there's a lot of international people that are managing those processes in the office that in line, the countries requires the training, the countries requires the information that the system has received because the system is functioning in a way that it gets the world out of poverty and that it gets the world out of prisons and that it gets the world out of abusing one another, right? Into poverty circumstances. And that one program is SARG VIP, right? Or SAGE SARG. Another part of the program that I've learned in South Africa, then South Africa functions under BEE, that they call the Black Economic Empowerment. And to Ribea Elise, that logically reasoning, the system then functions next in line with that program to the poverty countries, right? So then next to the SARS program is the programs that functions with the poverty countries and with the poverty countries requiring trainings and requiring the education to function on business itself and in the one house of the international world of business. And then the program is then explained to me in a way those years when I had training, I went into training and I've learned to listen to how does the program function in the world in general. And I worked in New Zealand internationally also on the same program. So I have a look, not on the same program in businesses that might have functioned from that same program, different computerized programs. And while I worked, I've learned that the education that the program then gives to the South Africa itself is then Black Economic Empowerment. And that is a long translation for me, so I don't even want to use that. But next in line to the program was then the poverty countries that then are having to be provided for. In South Africa, they call it the BEE, Black Economic Empowerment. They have a program that they work on, and they then function under those programs. South Africa should learn how to educate other international countries on the program, right? And when we get to that, there is the office holder of the world, there is the SART program, there is the BEE trainings that South Africa has received and educated. And those trainings are exactly required for countries, right? In South Africa, it's translated to BEE programs that the South African government functions on, and it's actually training that the international poverty countries require. I'm going to share this tomorrow on our HR 2024 discussion, and we're going to thoroughly educate us through those programs that the international countries that are in poverty actually receive those trainings. It's being probably the South African government would work probably on relaying the information that are in programs, and they need to send those programs to the poverty countries because those poverty countries need to function on those programs as well. And once the programs are being sent to the international countries, then the world would get into that. That is the one house office regulation business that every country has a requirement to function on. That is exactly almost where we want to be, and under that comes then the systems that I'm explaining and that I will be explaining again tomorrow is then that countries get out of war, and it then falls under regulation business and regulation fairness that the world are required to function on. Because New Zealand holds office holders that are from war countries and that are from different poverty countries, the requirement to educate those functions in those countries also. And that is where we are at in this season, everyone. Have an amazing day, and if you need information, contact the governments of different countries and find out how to get hold of those systems, make business with those countries, and listen to the training required on how the system functions and how countries can get out of poverty. That is it, everyone. We're going to discuss this a little bit. Everyone is making a lot of noises now, so have an amazing Sunday further with us.